Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of Shaking the Family Tree. Today we're going to be talking about Uncle Norman. Well, actually Norman is my cousin, but we like to refer to him as Uncle Norman. He is a colorful character and was known actually throughout the nation back in the day, and his nickname was the Human Fish. At least that was one of his nicknames. So hang in there. We'll go ahead and give you the lowdown on Uncle Norman.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, meet Norman B. Coykendall. We all called him Uncle Norman, but he's actually a cousin of mine, or was a cousin of mine. Norman was born in 1847, and he died in 1936. His parents were Seymour Coykendall and Mary Ocelia Bartley. The Bartley family I've only been able to trace back to the mid-1800s in New York, but the Coykendall line goes all the way back to the 1500s to the Netherlands. And the patriarch of the family was Lore van Coykendall and Christine Coykendall. Anyway, Uncle Norman, as you can see, is quite a colorful character. He was a stunt swimmer. He was very wealthy. He had several estates, and he used to perform all across the country in a swimming show that he designed, and my grandmother also participated in these shows. Now, this is a picture of Norman doing one of his Houdini type stunts. He would have himself tied to a chair and then have someone throw him into the water, and he would magically untie himself and pop back up out of the water. He had a nickname, a stage name. They called him the Human Fish, and he was featured in a lot of articles, including ones in the New York Times. Norman also owned a casino, racehorses, all kinds of stuff. He had quite an interesting life, and I'm going to show you some of the clippings and things that I have on old Uncle Norman. Now, here you can see he owned a Riverview casino and a bathhouse and grill. It was on the Delaware River. He had dancing there, orchestras, bands that would come to play. There was boating, fishing, all kinds of great stuff. This article appeared in the Pike County Dispatch. It was a newspaper that was, well, still is, published out in Pennsylvania. Here's another one. He loses in a storm. He lost some things during the hurricane. That was for his West Palm Beach property. He had a big resort down there. And here, see, Human Fish on Deck. This was about his river show and his water show, where he would perform the different tricks that I talked about, the one where he was tied to the chair. He also had ones where he jumped and dove through fire rings into the water. I have some articles on that too. Here's another one where they talk about his water sports, his estate. Here's where he was injured in an auto wreck. And here is where, well, what can I say? It kind of says it right there in black and white. He was also a bootlegger. Go Uncle Norman. So he got in trouble for that too. And evidently he forbid dogs from his colony. That was one of his resorts for biting. And there is where he sold some of his estates. Here is where he liked to collect antiques, and in this case he found some fluted milk glass, handmade milk glass, and lamps and things added to his antique collection. And here is where he was audited. Whoops. And his personal information. Now, Uncle Norman, in addition to being wealthy and having all this, swimming career and casinos and whatnot, he also managed to accumulate 5 different wives over his course of his lifetime. Their names were Dorothy Ruth Lambert, Nellie E. Cann, Mary H. Lapp, Stella T. Perusha, and Leona A. Bodner. So he had quite a few wives. He actually had 9 siblings, and he had several children, of course. Here's one of his marriage licenses. And here's where he was in another auto wreck. And here is his obituary. And it kind of says You know quite a bit about him. That was from the 1950s. He was a Mason. So he was part of the Palm Beach chapter number 24, Royal Arch Masons. And he was a life member of, several different Masonic lodges and organizations. And you can see here where it says that he was a human fish. You gotta love Uncle Norman. He also was good at hunting, and that is Uncle Norman. I don't know if you can see it. The scan that I have of it is very small, but that big black thing that you see hanging up there, that's a bear that he caught, and that's him standing next to the bear, so you can see just how huge that thing was. And there's his little notice about buying antiques. See, and there he is with the bear. Let's see, does it say? It says that the bear weighed 635 pounds. Now that is a big bear, my friends. And here's some more information about one of his other properties. And he also rented houses. He had several homes. More information about his properties. And, of course, in addition to bootlegging whiskey, he had some slot machines that needed to be seized. So, like I said, he was quite the colorful character. We love Uncle Norman. More antique information. There's about his trip to Kentucky. He was in the paper so many times. Mainly for his swimming, but also for his bootlegging and slot machines and such. There's another article about his water sports. More water sports articles. Contest that he won. There's where he killed that bear. We go back to that bear story. It was the largest bear in Pennsylvania at the time. That was in 1923. And it said that it took 4 shots to take it down, as you can see. And he was the 635 pounds. And he shot it in Milford, Pennsylvania. Home of Governor Pinchot, then Governor Pinchot. That is one of Uncle Norman's pools. He had several. And that is another part of the property, one of the properties Uncle Norman owned. That's another thing about the story of the black bear. And here is another story about him being a champion hand diver and winning a competition. It says he's the only person in the world who can dive his head through a soap box. Don't ask me, folks. I don't know. Anyway, here is more information about his travels. Again, like I said, he was always in the paper for one thing or another. And here is another article. This is about his properties. And this is more about his property. And another one about his travels. His bathing beach, housing, more of his travels, more of his renting, and here's another article about his trick swimming. We have one of his other marriage licenses. Like I said, he had 5 different wives. We also have copies of telephone directories that he appeared in, and that's what some of these are. As you can see, we accumulated quite a few things about Uncle Norman. More marriage certificates, census records. And here is another one for his marriage. Census records, marriage index, census record, records of marriages, more telephone directories. The list basically just goes on and on with good old Uncle Norman. But I'll give you an idea. And that's about the extent of what we have on him. We do have a few more things on Uncle Norman. Almost forgot. We've got his draft registration from World War I. You can see, according to this, he was tall and stout, blue eyes, brown hair. And he was a natural-born citizen. Stood 5'4", weighed about 145 pounds, at least at the time that he entered the service. And here's some more marriage records, and that is a picture of his tombstone. And we're back to the original picture that I first showed you of him at the bathing beach, one of his many bathing beaches.
Okay, there you go. That's it. That was Uncle Norman's story, at least part of it anyway. We hope that you are enjoying our Shaking the Family Tree series. And if you want to see more content like this, please be sure to like, subscribe, and leave us a message in the comments below. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you next time.